Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start trouble. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Radical Race Series as it continues its tour across the United States to start off Season 2 of 2023. After this round, we'll already be a third of the way through this season, which has thrown up many surprises and some very particular ones we weren't expecting at all. It's been entertaining racing as the sprint and feature format makes its return once again this season to all of our races, we believe. It's certainly thrown up its fair share of drama. Taking you through the season indeed, my name's Ewan O'Leary, alongside James Parfitt, as we will be for the entirety of this one. And James, it's great to be back once again, but it's hard to believe that we'll already be a third of the way through the season after this race.
Yeah, this season is absolutely flying by already. 4 weeks in, trekking across the US, and we've got another 3 weeks of the good old US of A as we go to Watkins, Virginia International and Daytona. But we are here at Barber Motorsport Park, and 17 cars on track, should be a good one.
It's a little bit of a smaller entry than what we got last week at Sebring, which did see its fair share of drama in its own way as well, including some pile-ups, I seem to remember, at some points. A little bit of chaos on the starts as well that we don't normally see. But who knows what we're expecting here today. It's Barber Motorsport Park, and I've got to say it's a bit of an unusual racetrack. I can't think of any track I could compare this one to. It's got a very small kind of area that it's situated in, but it loops back on itself again and again. It's got rises and falls. It's got some very strange corners as well. And there really is no racetrack quite like this one.
Well, do you know what? I was thinking about that. And if you looked at the design of the racetrack, you can imagine turn 12 being the left-hander of the Snetterton 300 circuit and then running round the bomb hole round 13, 14, 15 before you go left onto the start-finish straight. The only difference is obviously at turn 1 we go left here, whereas at Snetterton they go right. But it's kind of got that Snetterton, you can almost take Snetterton 300 and put it on top, and you're probably not going to see a lot of difference between layouts, to be fair.
I do see what you mean, but Snetterton has significantly less elevation change, I would say.
Yeah, but, you know, corner-wise, you could put it in there.
Yes. Well, I think it's worth mentioning, though, because the actual rises and falls do kind of give this place a bit of character. I have to say, Snetterton's not a circuit I particularly enjoyed driving around, maybe partly subconsciously because of the lack of elevation change, and that makes it seem less interesting maybe, but this circuit certainly is not lacking for that. And you don't tend to see this over circuits that have such a small kind of span of where they're actually situated. This is all crammed into a pretty small zone, really. And so it's pretty rare to see quite such elevation change in a circuit like this, when it's crammed in like this. But it's a very interesting one, and as we've seen so far in practice, it's going to be a difficult one to get to grips with as well.
Yeah, well, talking about that, we did see a rather spectacular crash. Now, this is where we are going to give you a health warning, guys, as well, because me and Ewan did watch this a couple of times and we both felt a little bit ill after this. David Beasley had somewhat of an adventurous incident going into practice. So this is where it all kind of kicks off with David. He goes a little bit on the grass, then he hits the barrier, and then we end up in, well, a 9 barrel roll spin for David Beasley with 9 rotations there as well. So yeah, not ideal practice for David Beasley, but it was quite an interesting one for us, really.
And we did count the rolls, by the way.
We did.
We're not making that up. We counted that one up in slow motion. It was quite remarkable to see, though. We don't see very often, but it's partly, I think, due to the slightly older physics on these older cars. I could be talking absolute rubbish there, but it seems to make sense in my head.
Yeah.
that probably wouldn't happen. In the new Radical, for example, I know we're not using it, but the new damage model probably wouldn't react like that.
No, to be honest, since they've updated the SR10, I'm not really sure how it would react. But I'm pretty sure it probably wouldn't do a 9-barrel roll spectacular down the straight. So, overall, it was very interesting. And as Ewan said, we did sit there and count the barrel rolls in slow motion. Good evening, Toxic Munchkin, and good evening, Phil. I hope you are well. Thank you so much for joining us for this SR8 event from Barber Motorsports. What do we think we're expecting, Ewan, for this sort of, sprint and feature?
Well, I think it's going to be the same usual chaos that we see generally, with the top 10 being reversed. It's going to be it's going to be fun. Toxic Munchkin, as you say, very very excited to be here by the looks of things, with the capital letters there. But anyway, different story. You mentioned the SR10, by the way. Luke Maxwell did indeed test the SR10 again earlier today, and said that if it was that lethal in real life, nobody would go in it because it's so dangerous. It just feels very on edge, and he's ordered triple screens as well, just as a side note. So he'll be jumping on that very very soon. That's my last update from things not at this race. We'll focus a little bit more on this one, a little bit more seriously as practice comes to an end and qualifying will start as well. But qualifying indeed won't indeed take that long, to be honest, because of the lap times you get around here. The championship standings have changed quite dramatically in the last couple of moments, or in the last round I should say, because of a lot of things that went on indeed last week. Paul Crabb now leads the standings by a little bit of a distance to Dan Webster, who has only been at 2 of the races so far, so that's worth bearing in mind. Paul LeMay and Luke Maxwell are next, with Mike Brewson also having been at only 2 races so far. Paul Clark stays in 6th place, so Robert Woodward. Then Patrick Charlton moves inside to the top 10 with George Gonzaga as well, with Jamie Bird dropping down to 10th, although he wasn't there last round. Neither was Sergio De La Cruz, who drops to 11th. John McCutcheon jumps up to 12th through the last couple of rounds, while Simon Edwards is in 13th right now. Not sure whether he's going to be here today. Feeling pretty ill today.
He is out on track.
Might not. He is out there. Okay.
Yep.
He said initially that he might only be in practice, but hopefully he does see it through. Darrell Taylor will be 14th ahead of Phil Glover, who's got the same points as Wayne Palmer. Phil Jocelyn is 17th. There's Seth Brown, Paul Godden, and Colin Wynn to round out the top 20. Dev Kirkman 21st. James Child, who was only at Road America, I believe. Gary Toole's only been at one of the races so far as well. Graham Brown and Michael LeMay inside the top 25, although they're on the same points. David Rolliston and Damien G. and a Martina Ward, David Beasley. And Colin Campbell has been at one of the rounds so far, but not scoring any points. So far we have had 30 drivers out there, 29 of whom have scored some points so far this season, which has so far been a good one. But things are going to change a little bit after next round, and things get a little bit more complicated, James, as I'm sure you well know, and I'm sure you enjoy as well, because the drop weeks are going to be applied in iRacing after this, because there's 3 rounds that get dropped, and so it will only count best scores in iRacing after this round, which will just be really weird to look at. Obviously, we won't show you that at home next week.
No, it's going to be all changing. I don't know. I don't know. We'll just go like that, I think, for a minute, as we've got about 55 seconds of qualifying, because drop weeks, yeah, they are what they are, and leagues bring them in, and as I say, we have got 3 here this season, so it's going to be rather interesting to see how it all pans out at the end of it, as we're going on to Watkins Glen next week. But, is what it is. We love these, and they bring us some great mathematical equations to be doing by the end of the season.
Certainly gives me a bit of a job, to figure these things out. To be honest, I'd go for working it out after the halfway point in the season, really, and doing it after round 6, and getting on with it from there, to be honest, because before then it really doesn't matter too much. But that's why I mentioned it in the championship rundown, by the way. Dan Webster's only been at 2 of the rounds so far, and he's had a very good time of things in those 2 rounds, scoring an average of 59 points throughout those 2, winning at least 1 race in both rounds. So, and in Road America won both. So he's certainly one to watch, and I would think possibly doing best out of those in the championship fight right now. But Paul Crabb's doing well as well. We just transitioned to qualifying right now, but it's been quite a long time since we've seen Paul Crabb driving quite like this over the course of a season. Again, we've got to make sure that they can do it over the course of 12 rounds, and this is only after 3. But Paul Crabb has not had a season like this for quite some time, and it's good to see him back at nearly his best, because it's been in more than 2 years now. It's 9 seasons ago that he won his last championship in the Radical Race Series, so it's good to see him getting back on track.
It seems very bizarre that you say it like that, considering the calibre of Paul Crabb. You know what I mean? He's nearly 4.2k in IR. He deserves his moment. I think that's the way to look at it. He deserves his moment, and I think that whatever he can produce this season will be an absolutely barnstorming one, because he's had some rotten luck, as we know, over the last few seasons, and I think he likes being back in the SR8, leading the championship. It'll be good for him. I think it'll do his confidence a world of good, and it'll really spark him into life. So I'm going to be really excited to see how he ends up later on through the order. So let's see how it happens.
Absolutely. We'll see. Well, we'll see the start of it all, of course, at the start of this qualifying session. As they get on with it, it's probably not going to take them very long at all. This session, I can say. They'll only really need just over 5 minutes for this, rather than the full 10, because you're limited at 3 laps anyway. Normally, you'd get a few more chances around this circuit than you would at some others, but no, you're limited to 3 around here. As you can see at the bottom of your screen there, Simon Edwards is indeed included in the order here tonight. He is feeling well enough clearly to race, and so he'll be out there. But we'll see who takes it in this qualifying session, because I seem to remember from Sebring it was very, very exciting indeed. And in the end, I think it was Paul LeMay who got the pole position in the end. I don't know if I've seen him so far today, Paul LeMay, although he could be here. It was a bit of a surprise pole 1 week ago, but maybe we'll see that again here at Barber.
Yeah, but then he had an absolute rotten start, if I remember correctly. And went down the order, and I think he got caught up in an incident in turn 1 in one of the races as well. So unfortunately for Paul LeMay, he may have been speedy, he may have been quick, but he had an absolutely rotten start in one of the races. I think it was actually his sprint race, where he went down 3, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning, and just kind of didn't go anywhere, if I remember correctly.
It was the day where the front row was just going nowhere on either of the starts, which was really bizarre, and we'll see how that gets on throughout the night, but that was a phenomenon we were experiencing last week. Paul Crabb seems to be going quickest here so far, though, with Mike Bootson punching in the first lap time. It's going to be Paul Crabb with the fastest one. LeMay slots into the top 5 there briefly, although behind Phil Jocelyn and Simon Edwards gets up there to second place. Not many drivers going out there as quickly as possible and getting straight up the order. Paul Clark up into 3rd place as well with that opening lap time, but as you can see, we're almost 2 seconds slower than where we were in practice. We were in the mid-15s for the best lap time in practice. It just shows that this circuit really does take a lot of warming up to.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I think that's the good thing about this circuit. It's not easy, is it? With the elevation changes, with the fast left-rights, they've got to really be sitting there concentrating, and it's one of them circuits where if you kind of take your mind off it for a minute, you could end up somewhere where you don't want to. I did a race last night at Detroit in the W12. It was all like that.
Oh, Crabb gets things wrong, and that's going to screw his second lap. But luckily, he's kept it out of the wall, and so he won't be hindered at all in this second lap here. Sorry, in this 3rd and final lap, I should say. But you can already see the improvement in lap times from Dan Webster, who puts his first in there. Mike Bootson, who puts his second in, he goes to the front, along with Simon Edwards, who now goes to the front as well. Luke Maxwell is quite a long way behind these guys on the road, and so he puts in lap times a lot later than everybody else. Paul Clark goes through into 3rd place, but it's final lap times already, and Paul Crabb's given himself a lot of work to do with this last lap.
Yeah, it definitely has, but that's exactly what we were talking about, right on cue. If you take your mind off it for a minute, you hit the grass, that's what happens. However, he did style it quite well. Went round the corner in one go, so fair play to him there. But Dan Webster is another man here sitting currently in 6th place. He's got a little bit of work to do going forward.
Certainly does. Luke Maxwell does improve there to a third place with that lap time. What about Dan Webster, though? This is his second lap time of the day, I believe, unless his first one was contained an off-track. We'll find out at the end of this one, of course, but I believe he might have one more here. Through the final couple of corners, he's going to go and should get himself into the top three with this lap time, unless something has gone really wrong from what we haven't seen. Mike Bousson has gone to the top as well with his final lap time. That's it for him. Webster goes into second. He's looking really good right now for a possible pole position. He'll have one more to go. Simon Edwards with the best lap time as Paul Crabb can only go to fourth. Simon Edwards the man to beat with Luke Maxwell, probably the most likely man to do it. Into the final couple of corners for Paul LeMay as well, who just doesn't seem quite as quick as he was 1 week ago. At Sebring it was his time and it was pole position for him as well, but it doesn't look like that's going to repeat itself here at Barber. He goes over the line. He should vault himself back into the top 10, and he does. But it's only 6th place. Luke Maxwell's now down to 7th, but he's going really, really quickly. In the first half of the lap, 2 purple sectors. It will be another one in the final sector. It will be provisional pole position with the only 1 minute 15 of the session so far. Dan Webster's got about 4/10 of a second to gain here at Barber with his final lap time of the day, and he was slower in the second sector. No purple sectors right now for Dan Webster, and this could be it. It looks like Luke Maxwell's going to take pole here. Dan Webster might well still join him on the front row, but I think it will be a surprise to see him take pole. He goes over the line, and it's not even it is an improvement. It will be front row. It's not good enough to catch Luke Maxwell, who is on pole with the only 1 minute 15 during that qualifying session.
Yeah, 1:15.842 for Luke Maxwell. Dan Webster 1:16.02. Here we've got a couple of cars still out on track. Phil Glover goes at 1:17.753 up into 15th. Sergio Martinez de la Cruz, what is he going to do as he comes around the final couple of corners of 15 and 16? So it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up, really.
See, over the line, he's going to struggle to improve his position, really. The gap's quite big down at the bottom. But it's clearly he's had issues on previous laps because he jumps up to 11th place with that lap time there. Dan Webster's still out there, but won't have any more laps. And I think Robert Woodward will, though, from 15th place. Yeah. He may well jump up in the final couple of minutes here. But other than that, that's everybody over the line here.
De La Cruz has got, this lap. Got this lap to finish. Currently green in sector 1, Woodward's yellow across the board, bar sector 1, De La Cruz is green in sector 1 and 2 as he goes around turn 9 on the run to 10 and 11. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. He is improving, so it could be top 5, top 6 maybe for De La Cruz.
Possibly. I don't think Robert Woodward has improved there. He hasn't. Down in 15th. That's where he will stay at the end of this session. De La Cruz, though, pushing as hard as possible through the final couple of corners, and it should be a nice top 10 for him here. He might even be able to get us 11 drivers within a second of the pole around here, which would be very, very impressive. And it just feels as if this season of the Radical Race Series is closest or closer than ever. Over the line for Sergio De La Cruz, and he goes up to 8th position, as John McCutchinson makes his way out of the pit lane here very late on. And he will have time to, maybe complete one lap. I'm not sure whether the session will end at the end of the time. If not, then he'll be starting in 18th position.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that's where he's going to end up. Don't think he's going to get run. He's on the run down now into the left, right of 10 and 11. Got a funny feeling if it's anything like the rest of the iRacing sessions, it cuts off directly at the end. So depending on how he's going to go, he might be coming back from 18th. I've got this funny feeling because he's not going to get a lap in, I don't believe.
Well, he's going to be able to start, but I have a feeling this is just the earliest John McCutcheon could have arrived, and that's what the situation is there. I'm pretty sure the round that he missed was at Road America, and he's certainly not taking this season as seriously as he has taken some in the past, especially last season as well, where of course he was in championship contention right up until the penultimate round. I think it was the round at Brands Hatch, wasn't it, where he was finally eliminated in a dramatic incident with Paul Clark. And that was at the time where Luke Maxwell had already gone way down the order as championship leader at the time. And all of a sudden fell apart for McCutcheon as well. And there was a brief moment in that race where Simon Edwards went from out the championship to winning the championship all in one day, but that was in the past. Let's see what happens here today. Luke Maxwell, speaking of him, he's on the pole here ahead of Dan Webster. Simon Edwards, Mike Booson share row 2. Paul Clark's inside the top 5. A nice qualifying from him, head of points leader Paul Crabb. Paul LeMay is in 7th. That's too much Paul in that area of the grid, I'm afraid. Sudida cruises in 8th ahead of Darrell Taylor and Martina Ward inside the top 10. George Gonzaga is in 11th ahead of Michael LeMay. Phil Justin's 13th ahead of Paul Godden, another Paul. Robert Woodward, is ahead of Phil Glover. Then it's David Beasley and John McCutcheon who will be rounding out your 18-car grid, more than a fifth of which is called Paul. So, there we are. The more statistics, the better. Although not for us, because we've got to distinguish between these lot. And it's not easy when they're all called the same name. Time elapsing, though, on this gridding process, and the red lights will be on here at Barber Motorsports Park. Last week, it was about the front row going absolutely nowhere at Sebring. Are things going to change as we head down to Alabama for the 4th round of the Radical Race Series in 2023's Season 2. Maxwell puts it into gear from the front row alongside Dan Webster. These two have been front and centre of this season so far. What about today? The lights will go out at Barber and Luke Maxwell gets off to a dream start. He already pulls car lengths over the two behind, as there's already contact as well on the front straight involving Jocelyn and Beasley by the looks of things. Through turn 1 and 2 though goes Luke Maxwell as the front few hold their positions. Maxwell, Webster, Edwards, Boos and Clark the top 5, relatively unchanged from the qualifying order.
Yeah, they have all what seems to have made it through. Phil Jocelyn looks like he's been involved there. Maxwell's gone in too hot. Maxwell went in hot into 5 and he's dropping down the order. So has Paul LeMay, I believe. So LeMay has gone slow on the left-hand side. He's lost the position to his brother on the inside. He's 3 wide with Darrell Taylor in the middle as these guys are heading into this tricky turn 7. John McCutcheon's made his way up. He's up 8 places already, going into still on the first lap, but it looks like Martina De La Cruz has had an incident and he's dropped down into 17.
Well, yeah, it certainly looks like it, and also Phil Jocelyn as well, as Paul LeMay, gets out into the grass on the outside of that corner. Doesn't find himself in the wall at least, but was very much threatened with dropping positions there. Luke Maxwell certainly did, though, seem to just make that mistake down in towards turn 5. I don't know whether he was put under pressure by those behind him, and it didn't even seem to be on entry where he was going too quickly, but through the middle of the corner, the car on cold tyres just couldn't quite keep up as Martina Ward nearly makes her way down the inside of Paul Crabb, who goes off into the grass. Oh, and straight into the side of Martina Ward, who goes off into the gravel. Crabb goes around, and that's Darrell Taylor, who's gone around as well in all of the chaos at 2 and 3. Paul Crabb, points leader, going to be losing some points here today because that was big contact at turn 2.
Yeah, he hit that grass, and as we know, there was just no stopping it, and straight into the side of Martina Ward went Paul Crabb, and then Darrell Taylor, just out of sympathy, went round at the same time. I think that was just in preparation that these guys might come onto the track. John McCutcheon's making up places as if everybody else just isn't here, really. He's up 12 places, and we're only at the end of lap 2.
Well, that was quite remarkable. John McCutcheon with a fantastic start again. 12 positions gained as that's off the road for Michael LeMay, who lets Paul LeMay through. Gonzaga gets through. Woodward into the top 10 as well. This order is very much changed from what we've seen in qualifying, which happens so often in the Radical Race Series. This is not the reverse grid race, by the way. That's still to come. But this reverse grid is going to be set off through an already jumbled up order anyway. It's going to be wildly discombobulated, I guess, if that's the right phrase to use, here for race 2, because the drivers are all over the place where they shouldn't be in terms of pace already in this race. They need to, they're going to be jumbled up even more after this one. Luke Maxwell's on the recovery though. Paul Clark is notoriously difficult to overtake, and that's one of the reasons why. Defending down the inside on the way into turn 5.
Yeah, I think from Clark's point of view, he's there on merit. He's up into 4th place. He doesn't have to move if he doesn't want to. They are racing for position. Is Maxwell's going to be looking at the inside into 7, 8 and 9. He's not. He's got to try and get him on this run down out of 10 and 11 down into 12, I think. Edwards is blinking all over the place, unfortunately. That for Mike Bousson is going to be absolutely horrendous. But Paul Clark doing what Paul Clark does best. Defends, and kind of wears out the person behind, who gets very frustrated at times being stuck behind him, but he does a stellar job at it.
John McCutcheon's going to be closing as a result of this as well, and Luke Maxwell's going to look to the inside now of the penultimate corner, but not quite. Can't quite get through, and he will have to stay behind for another lap as we come to the end of lap 3. Dan Webster in the lead again. What a season he is having. What a start to this season he's having, and it's the fastest lap to boot as well. But the fight for second place and fourth place, indeed, going on right now. Paul LeMay clearly showing the pace as well. He goes fastest in that 7th position as well. Up the hill they'll go through turn 4. Luke Maxwell was very close here last lap as well. Paul Clark got to the inside that time. He's done it again, but only just this time. Oh, and there's a bump there. Luke Maxwell gets straight into the back of Clark, and he feels bad immediately. He slows down. John McCutcheon's up to 4th.
Maxwell and Clark come into contact there in lap 5, and he just went in. Maxwell carried so much more speed than Clark did, and unfortunately straight into the back. Maxwell still in 5th, mind you. Paul LeMay behind him in 6th. John McCutcheon in front of him in 7th. Sergio De La Cruz is down the order. He's chasing Phil Glover, of course, currently in 11th place as well. But that was just an overcarry of more speed going into the corner, I think.
Absolutely. It's, well, he was trying to go for the over and under and then had too much speed, got straight into the back of Clark there, who goes around and goes down to 13th. I think Maxwell was going to try and wait up for Clark and then let him back through again, but upon realising how long that would take, he decided not to. Paul LeMay's gone around at the final corner, though. Very easy to do, dipping your wheel onto the grass on the outside line there. I don't know if he's found the wall or not. It doesn't look like he has from that shot there. He looks fine, but he's clearly gone for a spin and he's back down to 10th place.
Yeah, Martina Ward's another one that's just gone off track as well. Currently down in 17th place, but it is Sergio De La Cruz looking up the inside of Phil Glover. Not this time. Glover positions his car in the middle of the track. Into 5 they go before they go on this run through 6 and down into 7, 8 and 9. That tricky straight line corner at the end here. But it looks like Luke Maxwell may have gone off. He has. Maxwell's off on 5, all on his own. And unfortunately for him, it's another position that he's lost down there on lap 5.
It's another disaster of a race for Luke Maxwell. He's not having the best start to this season at all, despite, I would argue, being possibly the paciest. If we added together all of the qualifying times and showed who was fastest over one lap, I think Luke Maxwell might well be top of the tree. But in terms of racing, he's not quite been as quick as he has been some previous seasons and not quite been as lucky either. Robert Woodward gets pushed very wide there by Michael LeMay, making a very aggressive pass as Paul LeMay makes a good one on Paul Godden as well. LeMay is going to get through. We're going to see 2 LeMays through on Woodward here. Paul LeMay looks to the inside at turn 1. That's not quite going to happen. They'll all stay in this big battle for 7th place, which contains a lot of cars now.
Yeah, it does as well. Michael LeMay, Robert Woodward, Paul LeMay, Paul Godden, Phil Glover and Sergio De La Cruz are not too far away from each other either. Michael LeMay tries to give Paul LeMay room, sets his brother up, says, there you go, bud, have the inside line and now sitting behind me. You can have that draft and I'll pull you along. But it is Robert Woodward and Paul LeMay and Michael LeMay here battling away. There is Paul. He's just gone round the outside of Robert Woodward down through 7, 8 and 9. So he's now next on his case will be his brother. That's going to be an interesting one. I wonder if there's family orders there.
Family orders. There might
I don't know,
be. I think that's what we saw earlier, to be honest, between Michael LeMay and Paul LeMay. Michael didn't seem to put up much resistance to Paul at all. Oh, and he's not going to there either, not by choice, but he's gone wildly off circuit. Down at the bottom of the hill there, that was down at turn 11 and 12. Michael LeMay drops down to 14th from what was possibly his best running position all season long so far. Well, it's going to be very, very close between these two, between all of these guys. It's been a good race here so far, but let's not forget they're fighting for pole position in the second race. Phil Glover currently holding that one right now. Sergio De La Cruz wants it, so does Paul Clark, so does Phil Jocelyn. They're all here. Glover defends to the inside for 11. De La Cruz tries to go around the outside, which should get him the inside for 12, but it's a very difficult one to execute. He's going to have to try it in the final couple of corners, but goes very wide. Paul Clark looks up the inside. He won't be able to get through either. They'll all stay in line. There's 3 laps to go until the end of this one. And I think Phil Glover's going to do very well to hold everyone back from here. Oh! Oh! Contact down at turn 7, and that's just as the track comes back on itself again in that battle for 10th place. The pole position in race 2. Glover was on the inside line. He ended up off on the grass through the curbs and straight into the side of De La Cruz, who drops down to 15th place. He's found himself off the track there briefly again there, but back on again as George Gonzaga actually has to get back going again, and Luke Maxwell somehow has found himself back inside the top 5. Oh, Webster on the lead. Sorry, from the lead, it's Dan Webster down at turn 5, and I don't know what's happened to him, but he's dropped straight from the lead down to 4th. John McCutcheon's on the podium after starting from last place. Oh. It's just a misjudgment from Dan Webster. And the spin is fairly inconsequential at that point. He's just through the grass anyway. That was a silly mistake to make, really. He was on his own. There was no pressure around him. Just missed his braking point. Certainly has been. I mean, you could argue that a lot of that has come due to other people having issues, but you can't take anything away from this man here. 3rd place in the sprint race after starting right at the back. And Simon Edwards, by the way, not feeling 100%, I wouldn't imagine here, but might be on his way to a sprint race win anyway. Mike Bousson going to do all he can to try and take this away from him, but doesn't look like he's going to be able to. Edwards with a pretty good drive as well to hold on to this 1st place and soak up the pressure from Bousson for most of it as well. We certainly are. Only mere attempts between Simon Edwards and Mike Bousson at the end of this one. But after 10 laps of racing at Barber Motorsports Park, there's only going to be one winner. The 5-time champion of the Radical Race Series is going to be on top again. Simon Edwards wins the sprint race at Barber Motorsports Park by the narrowest of margins again. Mike Bousson and John McCutcheon will follow him on the podium. And Dan Webster somehow will miss out on a podium after leading for most of the race and making a bit of a silly mistake down towards turn 5. Luke Maxwell will round out the top 5 there with a big crash at the end. It's between Phil Glover and Martina Ward down at turns 11 and 12. They've both gone off, and that kind of thing just sums up this race, really. It has been chaotic. Ooh, Martina Ward trying to find herself down the inside there at turn 11, and it wasn't quite the space, really. Fortunately, both go around. Glover is going to finish ahead of Ward anyway, and they'll be joining each other on the back row in the feature race coming up in a few moments' time. 17 laps for that one. But still a very short one, to be honest. Very short laps around here. Simon Edwards wins by half a second, though, ahead of Mike Booson, with John McCutcheon and Dan Webster all within 4 seconds of the winner. Luke Maxwell with some issues throughout the day, but still gets the top 5 ahead of George Gonzaga. Then it will be Paul LeMay who recovers to 7th. Robert Woodward inside the top 10 from the near the back. Paul Godden and Paul Clark round out the top 10 and the reverse grid. Phil Jocelyn just misses out on that, ahead of Michael LeMay. Darrell Taylor 13th, ahead of Sergio De La Cruz. David Beasley 15th. Paul Crabb will be disappointed with 16th, only picking up 5 points for the points leader. Phil Glover and Martina Ward down in 17th and 18th position. So, Paul Crabb came in here today with, 16 points over Dan Webster. He's just lost 20 in that race there. For what points are worth at this stage of the season. Thought I'd let you know anyway. And he's also got a bit of a tall order as well throughout the rest of this one. But let's have a quick chat to Phil Glover in the interval here. Phil, welcome to the booth. We saw you were involved in a couple of incidents towards those final few laps. Just how were those final few minutes?
Yeah, it was a bit hectic, wasn't it? But bit of a shame, but hey, it's great fun round here.
I was going to ask you about the circuit, to be honest, because the word I used to describe it earlier was unique, because I can't really compare it to many other circuits around the world. How is it in terms of not only driving, but racing other people as well?
Yeah, there's a lot can be made up on the brakes into this corner I'm about to come into now. But yeah, it's really, really competitive fun on here, actually. You've got to be careful you don't lose it just here as you accelerate out.
And just quickly as well, as we go into the race, Phil, what are you expecting from this second one?
Well, I'm hoping a little bit better than the first. I was doing okay at one stage, and then, time will tell. I don't know, where am I on the grid? Is it 13th? Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah, 13th. Good luck, Phil, and we'll catch up with you after the race.
Yeah, speak to you later.
All right, Phil Glover there, getting ready for race 2, and good to chat to him in between the 2 races. We should do that more often. Anyway, Paul Clark is on the front row with Paul Godden. 2 Pauls on the front row, wouldn't you know it? Robert Woodward just ahead of Paul LeMay on the second row as well. George Gonzaga rounds out the top 5 with Luke Maxwell 6th. Dan Webster is in 7th, ahead of John McCutcheon. Mike Booson and Simon Edwards all having been reversed, of course, inside that top 10. Phil Glover and Phil Jocelyn and Michael LeMay just missed out on benefiting from that reverse. Darrell Taylor 13th ahead of Sergio De La Cruz. David Beasley 15th ahead of points leader coming into today, Paul Crabb. Phil Glover and Martina Ward round out the 18 car grid. And Phil will be disappointed to know he's on the back row, because I think he thought he was 13th. But anyway, the lights will be coming on now then at Barber Motorsports Park. The famous reverse grid race in the Radical Race Series is underway now, with Paul Clark on the inside. They all fan out from behind, already going 3 and 4 wide in towards turn 1. Oh dear, it was a big dive on the inside there, I think, from Webster, and it's caught up a load of cars at the end. Phil Jocelyn down to 17th place. A number of others caught up as well. I think it was Webster, somebody on the grass on the way into turn 1 and causing incidents, unfortunately.
Yeah, Webster looks like he got an absolutely barnstorming start. Unfortunately, John McCutcheon was off. Phil Jocelyn involved in that. Martina Ward. Webster's jumped to the pits. Darrell Taylor's just had a moment as well in turn 5. So that's all kicking off earlier on in this feature race here as well. But it is Paul Clark out in front currently, and he's got a 1.1 second gap as Paul Clark. It's going to be interesting to see if he can hold it though.
Absolutely, he is good at defending, as we all know, so let's see if he can hold on. Robert Woodward's inside the top 5 for the first time this race as well, ahead of Paul Godden, who's 4th. Paul LeMay and Luke Maxwell have got themselves onto podium places already to try and chase down Clark, as Edwards hasn't quite made that progress from 7th place, but that was one of the craziest starts we've seen all season, really. Obviously the Sebring ones were quite crazy as well, but to see somebody down the inside like that on the way in towards turn 1, on the grass in towards turn 1 on lap 1, doesn't seem like the brightest idea to me.
No, it's definitely something that I wouldn't have recommended there as well. Sergio De La Cruz under attack now from the recovering John McCutcheon, of course, who was involved in that turn 1 fracas, shall we say. And he's just about to go out the inside of De La Cruz on this run down now into turn 5. but it is a little bit manic. We'll have a try and have a look back at that start if we can. But Dela Cruz is looking at coming up the inside of McCutcheon. There's big contact in front.
Edwards loses out, and so do many more. McCutcheon and Woodward. Mike Poussin as well. They're 3 wide in the background going down towards turn 7 as well, which is absolutely not going to work. Sergio Dela Cruz involved. Side by side is even pretty risky. McCutcheon will get ahead of Dela Cruz. Then it will be Poussin and Paul Crabb, who's made up 5 places so far to be up into 11th. But what a crazy start we've seen. A load of incidents as well. But this is what you get with reverse grid racing in the Radical Race Series.
Yeah, Simon Edwards, Michael LeMay tucked up right behind him currently at the moment. The gap up front is now down half a second. Is this going to be Paul LeMay's chance to get a victory? Is Lou Maxwell going to redeem himself after race 1? We've got a lot. We've got 15 laps remaining, and it's all going to be coming out throughout the duration of this race. But Mr. Defence, Mr. I'm so wide, my SR8 you cannot get past, is out in front currently at the moment.
Absolutely. And you could argue that Paul LeMay is searching for a bit of redemption from last week as well, where he had definitely the pace, maybe the best pace of anyone, but didn't convert into a result that was really expected of him. Paul Clark defends again on the way down in towards turn 5. LeMay and Maxwell right behind. They won't be able to quite get through. It's in the midfield where there's a lot going on as well, but it's hard to know where to look in these races, and they're not very long races as well. So for those who have already been caught up in stuff, you've really got to get through the order again very, very quickly, because there just isn't very much time.
George Gonzaga here as well. Simon Edwards, Michael LeMay, John McCutcheon, Sergio Dela Cruz, Mike Poussin, all involved in this little bit of a mid-pack there as well. Turns out the tarmac suddenly turns into grass there. Whoops, says Dan Webster.
Absolutely. Yes, I can imagine so. As somebody losing a position there. I think it was Sergio Dela Cruz on Mike Poussin, for 9th place. That's down towards the back of this really long train. And it is interesting to see that some of the faster drivers like Crabb and Poussin and whatever, down towards the back of this train. But I fear that it could be a train right from first place very soon, because Paul Clark is holding LeMay and Maxwell up right now, certainly.
Well, I don't know. He's defending stoutly, is the Mr. Wide, of course. I don't know about holding up. Maybe he is a little bit, but he's doing what he needs to do. He's positioning the cars into turn 5 there. We don't want to give Paul any disrespect. Don't get me wrong. We've got Paul Clark, Paul LeMay, and the very fast Luke Maxwell. And obviously Maxwell and Clark were involved in an incident together. So hopefully that won't happen. But he's just doing what he needs to do leading the race, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't mean it in a malicious way, holding up, of course, but however you defend from someone, you do lose time. There's no, you can't defend and not lose time at the same time. It's not possible, because defensive lines and racing lines are a little bit different, unless you're racing around somewhere that's really very narrow. And I know this is one of those, but we've seen Paul Clark's line on the way in towards turn 5. It's certainly not the optimal racing line, and he wouldn't be doing it if LeMay and Maxwell were right behind him. Paul Godden is at the front of the train behind, though. That's a mistake from Paul Clark. And Paul LeMay might be able to get through here. Once again, defensive on the way into turn 1, but goes back to the racing line as well. A bit of a risky one, especially if LeMay had his nose alongside there, but he didn't. And now he goes wide through 2 and 3. Luke Maxwell will go through, and it's his turn to have a go at the race lead.
Oh, we've seen this before. We've seen this before already in the sprint race. Luke Maxwell, Paul LeMay, Paul Clark. This is it. This was literally where they made contact last time. They make it round here cleanly currently at the moment. Paul Clark, Maxwell and LeMay. LeMay's looking racy. He's not given up yet, I think, Ewan. That's going to be the interesting thing.
He certainly hasn't given up just yet. And it's good to see. Down into turn 7 there. Or 7C as it is, ridiculously. Very much a hop, skip and a jump over those curbs. Maxwell still behind, though. I'm not sure when the last time Paul Clark won a race was. I can't honestly remember, really. But this will be quite a historic one for him if he could, because we know his defending credentials. But can he pull it off on the biggest of stages here? Into the final couple of corners, Maxwell begins to just threaten a little bit. Clark gets his line right this time through the final corner, much like he didn't last time.
Yeah, he got it correct there as well. Just to let you know, though, Dan Webster, I was daydreaming and forgot to brake in the first race, just in case you're wondering.
Oh, That's bizarre.
Yes. Oh, on the back end of Paul Clark, there's Luke Maxwell from the ITGL looking racy.
And here we go. He's going to look to the outside. I thought he was going to try and fake that one and then go to the inside, but he doesn't. He's going to go for the over and under that was so successful for, it was nearly successful for him in the first race. Only he made contact and in the end spun somebody around. This time, he's a little bit more careful and make sure he stays behind. Simon Edwards is going through it right now, by the way. He's going side by side with Mike Boutsen in towards turn 7. He at least regained 7th place, but I'm pretty sure he did lose out to John McCutcheon on this lap, as they're all still behind Paul Godden, who's up in 4th place right now. It's a very, very large train, all the way down to 12th.
Yeah, it is, but it's still up front. No, that's the problem. The battles are still raging throughout the field. We'll try and bring you as much as we can. We're going to jump off Simon Edwards. I don't like the fact he's blinking. And I've seen that before, and it ends up crashing the whole thing. So we won't stay on him too long here. I'm wondering if he's obviously not aware his internet's playing up, but at the same time, not ideal. Paul Clark got a slow exit. Yep.
Here it is, inside line for Luke Maxwell, but is it enough in towards turn 1? Because you get the inside for turn 2 by hanging it out there, and that's exactly what Paul Clark has done. Maxwell still the meat in this sandwich, but he's gotten a good run out of turn 3 again. He's so strong off of that corner. He's good up the hill through turn 4, and now he looks to the inside. Clark forced to defend for what feels like the 7th lap in a row. It's the over and under again from Luke Maxwell, certainly for the 2nd time in a row, but his run off of turn 5 is not good enough for a move at turn 7, which just isn't that ideal for overtaking, and the 3 will stay as they were.
Oh, this is going to be... I tell you what, right? Luke knows Paul. We met at the open day at iLounge as well. So it's going to be even more interesting in the fact that they've spoken in real life. They've become mates in real life. And now they're battling this closely. They are contacting turn 5 in the sprint. I wonder how that conversations go. Clark, well, he's got literally the defense. He's got a builder in the back. He's chucking walls at him. He's trying to stop him coming through. And it's just got everything going on currently at the moment.
Oh, there's a mistake. Mistake from Luke Maxwell, who drops behind Paul LeMay, and John McCutcheon is right on the back of Paul Godden now. He's gotten through on Gonzaga as, not in the pit lane, excuse me, but Edwards and Boutsen have also got through on him there. Not sure if there's, no, there's not damage, but he's just dropping back a couple of places over the last couple of moments, but that was a big moment through the final quarter there, but this is only inviting more pressure because as we go on board with Paul Godden here, these guys are not that far away from the top 3. John McCutcheon is up to 4th, and it looks like he's on the charge now.
Yeah, he's got up what was the inside of Godden. I think he's going to get him going in. He is. So he's through. Oh, Maxwell's driving the ringer off that SR8. He's just left half of it on the curve of 7, 8 and 9. He is pushing like a barnstorming trooper. Clark has got literally 9 laps remaining. Is he going to make it work? Is he going to hold on?
This is quite unbelievable defence so far, but he's not even halfway through this one just yet. Paul LeMay looks to the inside line of the penultimate corner. He's not going to get through there. Paul Clark still in front. Luke Maxwell right in on this again. And John McCutcheon will be there very soon as well. Over the line for another lap. It's still as they were, pretty much.
Yeah, I can tell you what, right? When this reverse come out and they saw Paul Clark on the front, I can imagine what was going on in their heads. It's not going to be easy. He never makes it easy. And from Paul LeMay, Luke Maxwell, John McCutcheon's point of view, it's not going to be easy to get past him. He's just there. He knows where to position his car. He knows where to defend. It's like he's just everywhere. And there's Mike Boutsen trying to get hold of Simon Edwards, and Paul Godden's involved in it as well. There's action all the way through the top 10. Unbelievable.
There was a lock-up from one of the top 4 there, but they're all fine and going. Godden and Edwards and Boutsen all very close together through 8 and 9 they'll go. That's very close for Maxwell on the back of LeMay, and I think Maxwell looks strongest here in this group right now. in terms of getting through traffic, McCutcheon has been able to do that best so far today, but Maxwell looks fastest on the inside line at the penultimate corner. Very nearly had a go there, and this all helps Paul Clark because the pressure's not being put onto him, it's being put onto LeMay instead. Maxwell with a good exit, he gets down the inside and towards turn 1, he can't quite get it done there as Gonzaga also gets it wrong and drops outside the top 10 for the first time in a while. Clark also comes under pressure. Paul Crabb setting best laps of the race so far, back in the pack. That's because the leaders can't get any clean air to actually do that themselves. Down in towards turn 5. LeMay on the inside, but once again he's blocked.
Oh, that door was open for a brief moment. Paul Clark forgot what he was defending and literally left that door open very briefly. But it is LeMay, Maxwell, McCutcheon now on a 2-second gap to Simon Edwards, who looks like he's just gone past Paul Godden. Godden's just about to, looks like he's going to lose another position to Buisson. He has as well, and a puff of smoke from Michael LeMay all at the same time. But there's the leaders once more on your screen, coming down into turn 12 currently at the moment.
Pressure that is now mounting on Paul Clark has got to give at some point, surely. LeMay applying all of the pressure, and it's down here at the penultimate corner where he does seem strongest. He's able to keep that tighter line, but if he were to just wait a little bit longer and maybe have a go into the first portion of the racetrack, he might get somewhere, because Luke Maxwell is going to do it himself very soon. Oh, up the inside, he can't quite do it, as points leader Paul Crabb gets it wrong at the final corner just in the background there. He's down to 11th.
Yeah, Crabb made a mistake coming out of the last corner. Oh, LeMay!
Oh, and Maxwell almost found himself off on the grass. He's down the inside of LeMay, and Clark thinks he won't need to defend here, and he won't. It's side by side for second place as Maxwell gets down there. McCutcheon's going to try and follow through as well, but there's not a lot he can do there. He's boxed in now on the way towards turn 7. LeMay's still on the inside here, and he might well fight this. Side by side they'll go. Up over the curbs they'll go as well. LeMay holds on. Maxwell with the over and under. McCutcheon can only watch and stand back and enjoy this. Side by side through 8 and 9. LeMay holds on to the position, and Paul Clark is given a lap of breathing room.
Yeah, he's opened up 7 tenths at the moment with LeMay and Maxwell and McCutcheon all together. Further down the order, Dela Cruz is all over the back of Martina Ward as well, just for good health. So Martina Ward, she's got to defend. Simon Edwards has got Mike Buisson behind him. There's pockets of battles all the way through. The top 3, LeMay!
And Maxwell may have been involved as he slows down off the exit of turn at the final turn. John McCutcheon up to second. Mike Buisson and Simon Edwards are inside the top 5 as well now as a result. Paul Clark has more than a second. Not sure what happened there, but I think Maxwell might have made contact.
Yeah, we'll try and have a look back. We're just seeing how this Buisson-Edwards battle moves and materialises, going down into turn 5 currently at the moment. The left-hander here as well in the Radical Race Series feature. 17 laps here at Barber Motorsport. Edwards there is currently sitting in 4th. Buisson in 5th. Buisson is climbing all over him. He's there picking him out, trying to size him up, trying to get through. And it's just unbelievable action all the way through the field at the moment.
It's absolutely fantastic to watch this racing between everybody, but goodness me, is it stressful to be a part of right now, you'd imagine. The top 3 still with less than a second gap between them. Paul Clark now only has 5 laps here at Barber to continue this on. Through goes Martina Ward inside the top 10 as well, by the way. Yeah. Paul Crabb tries to get back inside the top 10. He's had a pretty miserable day.
Yeah, he has. He's battling away with Dela Cruz around that final round, coming round the final corner. He's going to have to run down into turn 1. Look at LeMay's car. The wings in the opposite direction. The scrapes all over the front. We'll try and have a look back about now. We'll grab that 2 seconds that we can.
Yeah, let's see. Well, Maxwell doesn't seem quite close enough to be making contact here, so it's just going to be a dip of the wheel onto the grass and into the wall. He did have a spin there at in the first race as well, let's not forget. He did also spin there, but didn't make contact with the wall. This time he has, and it could well cost him a little bit later. Paul Clark, though, was given a bit of breathing room, as I've said, as a result of that. But John McCutcheon and Luke Maxwell are right there again now.
Yeah, we've seen this in Brands last season. with Paul Clark and John McHutchinson with Luke Maxwell all at the same time. If you haven't watched it back, go and watch it back. It was a title decider for John McHutchinson. At that race alone, he came out of championship contention when he was behind Paul Clark. He's now got 4 laps, literally 4 laps. Can Clark hold on for these 4? Is he going to defend like an absolute stormtrooper? He absolutely is. And now he's going to try and get it with 4 laps to go.
Oh, he's a bit wide through 2 and 3 here. McHutchinson's going to have the chance to get the nose down there, but Clark should have a better exit. McHutchinson a little bit narrower off the back. Maxwell coming through as well as Edwards goes off. Up turn 4, he'll lose points. Here comes John McHutchinson down the inside of Paul Clark. Side by side between them. Luke Maxwell's going to have a better exit than them as well. It's Clark stern in his defence as ever, and he'll hold on going towards turn 7. McHutchinson very nearly thought about going down the inside there, doesn't go for it, but he's getting more aggressive here as the laps tick by.
Yeah, Edwards went off. Crab, I think, may have been involved with him, because Paul Crab is now down in 13th. But Paul Clark is on a mission. He hasn't got long. He's got to tighten up these final corners. It's here where he gets a little bit squirrely. Can he hold on with the Scotsman behind? It is unbelievable. The Englishman versus the Scotsman here on track at Barber, and we've only got literally 3 laps remaining.
Let's not forget, these two did make contact at Brands Hatch, which ultimately led to John McHutchinson falling out of championship contention as well. And I'm sure he hasn't forgotten about that either, despite the fact it was 2 months, maybe more, ago at this point. He certainly won't be forgetting that one. Paul Clark, though, is just so difficult to overtake, and McHutchinson finds that out once again here today at Barber. Down towards turn 5, the best overtaking opportunity of the lot. Clark goes wide, McHutchinson also goes wide. Maxwell can't capitalise. Clark may well survive another lap here.
Yeah, I think he may. I think he may survive it coming down into 7, 8 and 9. But he's got to get this run out of this. He cannot be running wide. They've got boosts on just for company coming into this as well. And this is Paul Clark, John McHutchinson, Luke Maxwell, and the ever-looming Englishman of Mike Bousson. The man from Froome, tucked up right behind this battle of 3. He is flying along. Is Paul Clark going to hold on for 2 laps, Ewan? What do we think?
It's going to be so difficult for him because the aggression is just going to be turned up by these 3 behind, lap on lap. I think the winner is going to come from one of these 4, though. I think that's pretty safe to say at this stage. But who's it going to be? We just don't know as the penultimate lap is begun. Paul Clark defensive on the inside line. He's got to be careful with that because McHutchinson can go around the outside through turn 1 and get the inside for turn 2. And finally, the move may well be made. Clark goes very wide, and Maxwell won't be able to come through on him as a result. Here comes Clark coming back at him. Maybe it's going to be Maxwell down the inside. Who's going to go for this? It's Bousson on the outside line towards turn 5. McHutchinson's through. Oh, and Bousson goes for a short spin as well. He should pick up 4th place, and he will do as well. But John McHutchinson takes the lead in the penultimate lap and might be able to bring this one home now.
Yeah, it's whether or not Clark's going to be able to get back on the back of him or whether or not Maxwell's going to get past. I'm wondering if there's a certain amount of friendship on Paul Clark and Luke Maxwell. Maxwell may have moved moves that he may have not have normally done, but he would have made them on others, and he didn't make it on Paul Clark. He's now in 3rd as we're coming round turn 12 for the penultimate time before we go on to the final lap. Can Clark get on to the back of McHutchinson? He's dropping down, unfortunately, 7 tenths out. Can Maxwell get him on the last lap? That's going to be the question.
Don't think it's going to be enough here for anyone other than John McHutchinson, who takes the white flag. One more lap around this circuit. Not far to go at all. And he should be taking home the win. Clark with a bit more defending to do here. Luke Maxwell right behind him, but Maxwell has just struggled to make his way through here, down towards turn 5. Once again, he's just not close enough, and that's been the story of his race.
Yeah, it definitely has. He just can't get out of that exit of 4 to get that run down into 5. And unfortunately, if he isn't going to get him down into 7, 8 and 9, he's going to struggle unless he can get out of the exit of 10 and 11 to that run down into 12. But we're on the back end of Clark. We can see Luke Maxwell. He's trying to carry the speed. He needs to carry the speed. And I don't think he's carried enough speed this time around.
Well, let's see. Over a second for John McCutcheon. He should have this one. Luke Maxwell may well lay it all on the line here. I think he may well still be able to console himself with the championship lead at the end of today, though. Let's see. Into the last couple of corners he'll go. It's a very tight line. He's been hinting at that all race, and Paul Clark was waiting for it. It looks like he's going to take this one, but they'll all be behind John McCutcheon, who, after qualifying in 18th, gets a podium in both races and the win in race 2 at Barber Motorsports Park. Paul Clark second ahead of Luke Maxwell, with Mike Bousson and Paul Godden inside the top 5. What a result from him, as Martina Ward just loses her top 10 right at the end. Darrell Taylor just beat her to that one. I think it was a mistake there on the very last lap.
Oh, he's let her back through.
Oh, indeed, the position's going to be given back again.
Yeah.
There may well have been contact between the two. I think Darrell Taylor was just giving the position back as a result.
Yeah, I think he has, and this is why. Oh, that's a little bit too much, to be fair. We need to go a little bit later out on that one.
Yeah, here we go. Martina got the line a bit wrong into the chicane, but Taylor still went straight into the back of her there, and kindly enough, gave the position back.
Yeah, he did.
So, not much arguing after the race about that one, you wouldn't imagine. And Paul Crabb, the final driver on the lead lap, finishing down in 16th position. What a disastrous day for the points leader.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not had a good one as Paul Crabb. Not had a good one at all, down in 16th, but he absolutely, that race was just something else here tonight, and unbelievable. So unlucky for Paul Clark. I almost thought he was going to get him, but he just misses out.
Well, John McCutcheon certainly doesn't. He wins by 1.5 seconds ahead of Paul Clark. Then Luke Maxwell on the podium joining them. Mike Bousson will be fourth ahead of Paul Godden and Michael LeMay. Sergio De La Cruz in seventh ahead of Paul LeMay, with Simon Edwards and Martina Ward running out the top 10. Darrell Taylor just gave that position back at the end. Robert Woodward finishes 12th after running inside the top 10 for a fair portion of that race. Phil Glover up to 13th from his start. Then it is George Gonzaga in the 14th place as Phil Justin and Paul Crabb down in 16th. David Beasley 17th and Dan Webster, who didn't even make it to the end of lap 1.
Yeah.
Well, another very, very exciting race indeed. Let's work our way up the podium today, shall we? Because Luke Maxwell's already waiting for us, and we'll chat to him now. Luke, welcome to the booth. Good to have you here, and congratulations on a podium in race 2. But just how difficult was it to overtake around here, especially in this race as well, where you spent a lot of your race behind Paul Clark?
Yeah, I mean, apologies to Paul for race 1 where I punted him off. It was a bit tight at the apex there. I was trying to do a cutback, but he was taking a tight line there, so unfortunately punted him there. It's very hard. I am so hot. You've got the pace there, but when you're following and you've got the dirty air, it's very, very difficult to get a run and do what you need to do.
It certainly is, and I mean, in terms of these reverse grid races, we're just watching the we're watching the start right now. Dan Webster down the inside and getting things wrong. You were just about lucky enough to avoid getting caught up in that. Almost everybody else behind you did. And just what are these reverse grid races like? And what do they add to these evenings when compared to the previous format, which you were also here for, where we only had one race an evening?
Well, if you take tracks like that, I mean, tactically, you're better off coming lower down in the sprint, to get a good place in the feature, because it's so hard to come through the grid. I think I've started 6th and managed to get up to 3rd quite quickly off the start. But yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
It certainly is. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Better be Paul Clark. Sorry again, mate.
Absolutely. I'm hoping he'll accept it. There we are. He held you behind for all race there as retribution, I guess.
Didn't want to do it twice,
Exactly. There we are. Luke, congratulations on another decent evening for yourself, and thanks very much for chatting to us.
Yeah, cheers, guys. See ya.
Thanks very much. Luke Maxwell there, 3rd place here in the the feature race, all behind, of course, John McCutcheon, who was on the podium twice this evening. John, welcome to the move. Good to have you here. I want to talk a little bit about the first race first, because you came down in 18th position down to the podium. Was it always the plan to just not qualify and see what was going to happen?
No, I just got home. I just sat as soon as I sat down into my rig, the qualifying finished. I think I got maybe half a lap or something. So no, that's not the plan. From now on, I'll be able to make qualifying, hopefully.
That would be good to see, but it seems that your better results are coming from the back at the moment. What's it like coming through the field like that, especially at a circuit like this? Did you find it hard to overtake or not?
It's a tricky circuit. It's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of long corners where it's easy to lose the rear. So I was hoping a few people in front would spin out, and it seemed to pan out that way. But there is opportunities to pass. You just got to throw them offline and undercut, even a wee block pass, I suppose. A lot of fun.
It certainly is. We've got a few more American circuits to come on this calendar. Watkins Glen, VIR, and the Daytona as well, which it's been a remarkably American opening to this season. How are you feeling about some of those tracks? Any ones that particularly stick out for you as being good or bad for you?
I'm usually good at Watkins Glen. I don't think I've driven Daytona and Radical. If I have, it must have been a long time ago. And VIR's, it's just helter-skelter. It's like a mini Nordschleifer. So plenty of practice on that.
It's a very bizarre circuit, I've got to say. But there we are. We'll look forward to that in a few weeks. John, congratulations on a double podium here tonight, especially from where you started from, of course. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks, Ewan.
Thanks very much. John McCutcheon there. As I said, 2 podiums in one night. Very successful for him indeed. Paul Godden is also here as well, by the way, with a top 5 there in race 2. Paul, welcome to the move as well. Good to have you here. You spent a lot of your race defending there and looking in the mirrors. How was that for you?
Oh, it's a brilliant race. That was. It was a bit unexpected because I was started second on the grid, and I haven't quite got the pace as the top guys at the moment. I'm about a second off, so I knew that they were going to come through, but I wanted to have a little bit of a battle with them and learn to race with them, but without impeding them too much, because it's not my place to be, because that's not what my goals are for each race. I set myself personal goals, and that wasn't one of them to be at the top of the field.
I mean, what are the things you've got to improve on? What are the areas that you've got to get a little bit quicker at to actually get up with those top guys? You mentioned that you're a little bit of down on speed in terms of that. Where do you think that is coming from?
Mainly it's the car. So I'm very new to the car, so every race I go into it, and if I can start the evening about a second to a second and a half off the top pace, that's my first goal. And then after that, I try and improve a tenth at a time consistently. And if I can improve that by my driving in the race, that's great. And then during the practice sessions, I have a little play with the setup and see if I can find a little bit of time in the setup as well, because it's a bit of setup and it's a bit of me. So there's no point playing all with the setup, because I know as I'm new to the car, I need to change my driving style a little bit with it. I think I'm a little bit too aggressive, I found. So, but I just need to watch the replays back and try and learn and improve every race, and hopefully get better and better throughout the season.
That certainly is. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out to all the organisers. They put a great deal of effort into it and make such a great series to be part of. And obviously yourself and James for doing the commentary. I love watching it back on the broadcast, either in the same evening or the morning after. And also to the drivers, because again, without all the drivers here, we wouldn't have a league to be part of or to sit back and watch. So it's it's really nice to be part of this championship.
Absolutely. Paul, congratulations on a successful evening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Paul Godden inside the top 5 here in the feature race. Simon Edwards wasn't quite, but joins us now regardless. Simon, welcome to the move. Good to have you here. And I know that you were on the fence almost about joining here tonight as well, but I'm not sure if you'll be glad you did or not by this point. How was your evening at Barber today?
Oh, I didn't mind it. I got a lucky win in the first one. Yeah, I'm a bit crook. I'll feel it tomorrow. I know I will. But yeah, I thought I was holding on well there in the second race, even though I completely murdered Robert in lap 2, I think it was, wasn't it? So I was hoping to finish 4th there, but I just threw it away.
So I was going to ask you about that incident with Robert Woodward, because either we didn't see it at the time or I don't remember it. And I think we might be about to see it in slow motion here. But just tell us a little bit about what happened from your perspective.
I'm pretty confident on braking at any side of the road into the hairpin, but it caught me out, and I just locked the inside wheel, and I just couldn't get it unlocked. And the only thing that got me around the corner was whacking into Robert, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was. I think we are just about to see it actually on the stream. Just before we let you go, Simon, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just everybody in this league. I know we're all a bit disappointed in the SR10 and everything, but we're making do, and people are turning up, and we're having good races. So let's continue that way while everything's sorted out.
Absolutely. Simon, congratulations on a decent evening for yourself, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Simon Edwards, talking to us there. And finally, we'll have a quick chat with Phil Glover as well. We caught up with Phil between race 1 and 2. Race 2, Phil, going a little bit better for you on that occasion, making up places, finishing up higher than where you started. How was race 2 for you?
Yeah, it's tremendous fun one for me anyway. I had a great battle with Daryl. He was putting quite a lot of pressure on me, and eventually it tailed. But yeah, happy with 13th. I ran a very low downforce setup, which was completely different to everybody else from what I can understand.
What was the thinking behind low downforce at such a tight and twisty circuit?
Yeah, I know it's a bit bizarre, isn't it? But I've been running low downforce for quite a while now, and I tried running higher downforce, and I just kept I just kept spinning out because I was having to put dive planes on the front, and that was making it steer too quickly for me. So even with a lot of wing on the back, for those tighter, smaller turns, I was finding it was difficult. So yeah, I just thought, well, maybe I can make some time up, and it's quite difficult to pass anyway on this track. Yeah.
It certainly is. What about the next few weeks for you, Phil? Are we going to be seeing you back? We're at the likes of Watkins Glen, VAR, and Daytona. How are you feeling about those few rounds to come?
Yeah, Watkins Glen, I do like. Daytona, well, I'll take it as it comes, really.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be doing that, to be honest. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Just the guys that organise the league, as always. So yeah, big shout out to them, and also to Daryl for making it so much fun tonight.
Absolutely, Phil. Congratulations on a nice evening for yourself, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah. Take care. See you next week. Bye.
Thanks very much, Phil Glover, there chatting to us at the end of what's been a very interesting round. Barber Motorsport Park certainly delivered for us, and once again the reverse grid delivering for us as well, James.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the reverse grid has been incredible for this series. I think it's really brought it alight. It brings into all the people in the 10th place who have won the first one. It brings them in. It's just been absolutely amazing. That race was just incredible, and unlucky for Clark. I thought he may have been able to hang on, but as soon as McHutchison went through, he just pulled away, and it was just a bit of a shame. But yeah, unbelievable action. And as we say from Luke Maxwell's point of view, contact in the first race with Paul Clark, and I think that's where the apprehension come through for race 2. I don't think he wanted to send it down and have a repeat, to be honest. And unfortunately for him, he didn't get through, and that's where he left himself in 3rd place.
Absolutely. There was a lot going on in that race, and a lot to unpick as well. We'll, of course, have all of the reaction from that and all of the all of the racing from next week, which will be coming from Watkins Glen, the boot layout with the full Grand Prix layout. So we very much hope you will join us for them. Make sure you stick around on JPB YouTube channel, of course. There's a lot of racing going on over the next few days and the next few weeks as well. So make sure you stick around and take a look at that. But for now, that's it from us. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside James Parfitt, and until we see you back here, same time, same place, for round 5 of this championship, it's goodbye for now.